overcrowded in writing publications, scientific research publications. So I'll start with inspiration, and I will explain types of research. What are the exploratory types, the descriptive type of research, and I'll also um, link you to understand how we must observe ethical behavior in the research process, and how we do research design, and how we do sampling and data collection and all the references and so on. So good researchers can be bad writers. Education and research is nonetheless remains that if you get the research right, then the writing aspect will somehow just fall naturally into place. This is a very nice quotation. My strength lies solely in my tenacity. Do not get it right, get it written. I write when I'm inspired, and I see to it that I'm inspired at 9 o'clock every morning. The last thing one settles in writing a thesis or even a publication, a scientific paper, is what first and foremost to put in first. So the function of the research design is to ensure that the evidence obtained enables us to answer the initial question as unambiguously as possible. The research question is critically important. So the greatest challenge to any thinker is stating the problem in a way that will allow a solution. It's not just good to interpret anything, but how do you change? How do you make the changes that are necessary to make? It's very important. The research question dominates the design of the research process, of the research value chain. And data and methods are to be selected so that the research question and the research problem can be answered properly. You must adopt a skeptical mind set throughout the writing process. You must be critical. You must go back and forth. You mustn't just say, I write and I'm done. No, you must go back again, see it, and rewrite it also. From research idea to literature review, theoretical framing and conceptual framing, derived from the research problem, the research design, the research planning, the data collection, the data analysis, the empirical solution, the theoretical interpretation of results, comparison with earlier research done, and conclusion. That's what you need to do. Always move back and forth. That's how you can do it. So you need to define the research problem properly. And the research you do can define your future. So the research problem can be as important as providing a direction to your life. So choose it because it is something you really want to do. Plan research design properly, do the correct literature review appropriately, and then you do the sampling, and the size must be done properly. How you do the data collection and process it is also important, and the processing and the analysis of the data, and how you make contributions, conclusions, recommendations matter very much. So you must do all that. So I must give you two examples of my own students. There are different types of research. Research questions. Some examples of research ones. I just want to go back to you. Sorry about this. No. Wait. We're going to.
Yes, sir, Mammo,
Sorry, I just want to go back.
you are sharing your PPT.
Yes.
If if you are unable to share your PPT, then you can send to me.
I yes. The problem I have is sorry. Yes. The where I am, my internet is not good. I don't know. My laptop is not playing very well. So I'll send it to you later. You can also share it to them.
Yes,
But
you can
let
share to
me
me. I will share. No problem.
let me just now explain it to you. Yes. I think that's the problem. I'm so sorry about that. Yeah.
Yes,
So let's see what we could do. Yeah. I don't know
yes,
why
yes,
it's
yes.
it happened like that. Okay. The descriptive version, the causal version. So the research presentations can be, in any of these research types. So the exploratory research is done with undertaking with the aim of clarifying ambiguous problems. So it's actually dealing with different problems, research problems that you have, but the selection with by not going into the ambiguity is very, very important. So general problems, usually known but not sufficiently understood, have to be explored. The purpose is to get more information with exploration to uncover specific courses of action that are necessary and required. That the uncovering of the specific one by doing exploratory research is a task for also not just doing the current research you are doing, but subsequent research that you want to do. I had a student. Her name is. There are two students I just mentioned, South African students. One is Desiree. She's from South Africa. Another was Seke Lukowi. He's from the DRC Congo. They were my PhD students, and they were doing scientific papers and their own research, PhD research. Then what did they do? Just to give you an example, they use exploratory research strategy. How did they do it? In the case of Desiree, she would like to explore in a few African countries how science, technology, and innovation indicators have been applied for both policy making or for building national systems of innovation. She worked on that. In the case of Seke Lukowi, he would like to explore how South Africa's space program impacts on the sustainable development of the SADC region, the regional areas. So that is the kind of exploratory research that they were both trying to explore the spatial side and also with Desiree and the innovation system side and also the science technology innovation indicators application. That's also what she was trying to do. So the descriptive research is undertaken with the aim of determining the characteristics of a population or a phenomenon. It excavates or digs deeper because previous knowledge of problems exists. You already know that. How high degree of precision or accuracy it must be necessary in undertaking descriptive research. Then the examples of descriptive research is they started asking questions. There was another student of mine also. His name is Silas, and he was doing work on uh, alternative energy in South Africa. Renewable energy, how do we do it? Who are producing alternative energy in South Africa? He asked. How many firms are involved in the manufacture of alternative energy products in South Africa? What are the types of technologies these manufacturers use to produce alternative energy products? He said. So he, Silas, yes, yes, okay. In Silas research, who are the users of alternative energy in South Africa? And what is the producer-user interaction in the alternative energy sector in South Africa? That's what this young researcher did. There's a causal research. This is undertaken with the aim of identifying the cause and effect relationship amongst the variables that you select. Are they normally preceded by exploratory and descriptive research? These causal research variables that you have selected, both the cause and effect, or are they difficult to determine because of the influence of other variables, concomitant variation, and the presence of other hidden variables? That's what it is. Another student of mine, he's from Zimbabwe. His name is Shakespeare, and his research links information communication technology (ICT) with climate change awareness. How do we now use digital technology to make our awareness on climate change difficulties that the world is facing? How do we link the AI and all these things that we now have in the digital world? The more ICT literate, will that make us better to have the chance to enhance climate change awareness? Or is ICT literacy not going to help us? Or is it not going? Is it going to help us? How will it help us? Will will higher sugar consumption cause more people to drown? You see, that's what does it do when you do different types of consumption also in the health area. And causal relationship between the variables of higher sugar consumption and drowning. So the key point, therefore, in the research process is keep connecting forward linkages in research. The earlier stages of a research project determine the designs at a later stage. For example, the objective of the research will determine the selection of the sample and the way data is collected. So your research problem, your research objective, your research strategy, and your research direction is very, very important. Keep connecting backward linkages. The largest later stage of a research project determine how its earlier stages are conducted. For example, the policymakers require certain specific information which the researcher anticipates, for which he or she plans the data collection and analysis steps accordingly. So ethical behavior is also critical in research. No deception, absolutely forbidden in research. Be forthright. Do not conceal the true purpose of the research. Maintain objectivity, courtesy, maintain high professional standards, standard yardstick through scientific research process. No falsification, no alteration of data, no misrepresentation of data to suit any special interest, including what you may profess. Protect the confidentiality of the research subjects and the research sponsors. Avoid faulty or superficial conclusion. Do not copy information from competing research proposals. Try to verify truthfulness from the source. You get consent to do your research through interviews. Try to enlist research cooperation with the researchers. Identify any constraint or limitation in advance. Avoid manipulation or influence research to discredit individuals or organizations. Ethical consideration. Observe the confidentiality of the research, subjects, and the researcher. Avoid advocacy research. Avoid also plagiarism, and so on and so on. You need to do that very, very much systematically. Research methods. Mastering the necessary methods. Enjoying using them. Intellectual confidence in the results that these methods generate. Yeah? Does the research process involve data collection you trust and data analysis that you believe in, or data you can use or can learn to use, or you trust and can learn to be an expert and can believe and be master in the field? It makes you in the field. So research design is a plan of the proposed research work. It does provide a picture for the whole before starting of the work. It's a general blueprint that guides the investigator in the process of collecting, analyzing, and interpreting observations. So research design definition, no single definition, defined in different terms by social scientists. A research design is not a highly specific plan to be followed without deviation, but rather a series of guideposts to keep one in the right direction. So research design tells the researcher what to observe, whom to observe, how to observe, why to observe, how to record observation, how to analyze them, what inferences can be drawn. In fact, the researcher can see the whole study structure and realize the place and importance of successive steps that he needs to do or she needs to do that are involved. Criteria of good research design. Objectivity is necessary. Reliability is necessary. Validity is necessary. Generalization Very accurate generalization is very necessary. So objectivity is when a phenomenon is observed in its true form without being affected by observer's own view. For example, when you say milk is white, it's objective. But when we say milk is the most healthy drink, then it may not be entirely objective. So reliability. It refers to consistency throughout a series of measurements. Investigators should frame a question in such a way that respondent cannot but give only one genuine response. In other words, if a respondent gives out a response to a particular item, he or she is expected to give the same response to that item whenever he or she is asked subsequently. So check items, questions, administrating the same test repeatedly. Validity. The researcher must make sure that any measuring instrument, scale, selected is valid when it measures what it proposed to measure. Generalization. Most research is concerned not only with the effect of one variable upon another under a particular setting studied, but also with its effect in a natural setting on a larger population. In other words, data collected from a sample can be utilized for drawing certain generations applicable to a larger group population from which the sample is drawn. So generalization, example, you design a sample of 25 firms in a particular sector where the population is 250. Your research findings can be generalized for the whole sector or 250 firms. However, complete generalization is difficult, and it is true or possible only under given conditions. So steps involved in research design, selection of research problem, title of the research project, purpose, significance of the study, review of literature, statements of the problem, scope of the investigation, objectives of the study. Steps involved in research design, concepts and variables used, selection hypothesis, selection of sample, data collection, processing, analysis, tabulation of data, interpretation of results, verifications, conclusions and suggestions, and recommendations and contributions. Meaning and definition. A sample is a smaller representation of the larger whole. A sample contains individual units and is a slice of the population representing the universe. Purpose of sampling is to draw inferences concerning the universe. Process of sampling. Three elements in the process of sampling: selection of the sample, collection of information, drawing of inferences. The larger the size of the sample, the more accurate the results are likely to be. So sample size is very, very important. Sometimes students select not enough sampling. When that happens, it makes the research inaccurate. So characteristics of a sample: representativeness, adequacy, independence, homogeneity. With representativeness, you should be representative of the whole population to give the true picture. The adequacy, the size should be adequate to provide reliability. Independence, all items should be selected independently of one another, not repeating the same thing. Homogeneity, no basic difference in the nature of units in the same sample and population. Characteristics of a sample: lack of bias, should be unbiased and selected in random. Economical size should be manageable and economical. Accuracy and completeness, sample should never give incomplete information. Advantage: small size means short time in carrying out research and less expensive. Helps detailed study possible. And proper selection of sample leads to accurate results. As it's difficult to study entire population in the universe, sampling is the best method. Disadvantage: faulty method of selection may lead to bias and false generalization. The results will be accurate only when sample is representative. The selection of a representative sample is difficult. It's not easy to stick to the sample because of lack of response and inaccessibility. Then results may be biased. Types of samplings: simple random sampling. It ensures each unit in the universe to equal to have equal chance to be chosen. If universe is homogeneous and large, it cannot be used if universe is heterogeneous. So systematic sampling, by selecting every item in the population For example, every hunter's item in the list of 4,200 companies. So types of sampling: purposive sampling, stratified random sampling, when certain units are purposive selected by the researcher exercising good judgment, but units selected are representative of the population. The stratified random sampling, combination of random sampling and purposive sampling. First, the universe is divided into stratas, groups on a single criterion, and from each group, items are selected randomly. So types of sampling: quota sampling, commonly used method in market surveys and opinion polls; accidental sampling, researcher selects any case he comes across or she comes across; snowball sampling, when information about units are not available, snowball sampling is used. If a researcher wants to study the problems faced by the Indian doctors in London, he may get in touch with some of them and names of others from them. Spatial sampling, when population is in a place, uh, is not static and move from place to place, whole population in a particular place is taken in the sample. So types of sampling: saturation sampling. Some studies need the whole population to be in the sample. Even one is left, that can distort the results. Convenience sampling, unsystematic, careless, accidental opportunity sampling, according to the convenience of the sampler. Self-selected sampling, listeners of a radio taking part in a survey choose a sample that is not representative, is biased sample. This may be caused by following factors: too small size, purposive selection, imperfect stratification, incomplete source list. All this can, and the biased sampling, replacement and undo loss of cases, selection by field workers, convenience sampling, faulty method, drawing random sample, and case study. Traditionally, a method of qualitative analysis is done through case study, best suited for tracing the evolution and growth of a social problem in its different aspects. Case study, it's termed as a method, a technique, an approach to social reality, and a mode of organizing data in terms of some chosen units. It examines the complex situation and combination of factors involved in a given situation so as to identify the causal factors operating. So case study, according to Stuart Equine, case study is the examination of a single situation, persons, group, or institutions as complex wholes in order to identify types and processes. The focus may be individuals, institutions, firms, groups, communities, countries. So a case study assumptions: a case cannot be studied at a particular time alone. It should be studied on the basis of whole life history, background, etc. Underlying unity, it makes it possible to apply the inference drawn from the unit or group of units cases to the whole population. To find out the real motives behind any action, we have to study the problem in its historical perspective. So case study, precautions in selection, selection of a unit, identification of a problem, type, scope, availability of data, cost. Researchers should decide which units to be studied and what aspects. Case data is to be supplemented by observational, statistical, and historical data as they afford a base for generalization. So case study data, judicious combination of techniques of data collection is a prerequisite of securing meaningful data. We should be careful in looking into the completeness and validity of data. Data should be up to date. You should use different techniques and tools in data collection: observations, interviews, questionnaires. Survey method, a widely used method of social research and a technique in the analysis of fact finding. Survey means not only a way of collecting data, but also analyzing the results statistically and systematically. It's a technique of investigation involving direct observation of a phenomenon and collection of information through personal interviews and questionnaires. So survey method, they provide causal and meaningful explanation. Some argue that the term survey could be used only when a direct contact is made with respondents. Normally, survey technique is used when the desired information cannot be obtained, yeah, more easily and less expensively from other sources, such as published materials, data availability, and library archives. So survey method steps: need to be planned carefully from start to finish. The value chain must be clear. Selection of the problem. It should be feasible, not necessarily new, should have utility, can be modest in scope. Preliminary study. Go through extensive literature review, find out how such research was conducted previously by others, consult some who did this, if possible, if you know them. Survey method steps, preparation of survey design, you must do, executing survey, pilot survey, and main survey. Pilot is good to do before main survey, and then you process the tabulation and the analysis by annotated bibliography. Survey method design and planning. What sort of survey are you contemplating? What sort of response are you targeting? What questions do you want answers to? What response categories are you contemplating? So what sequence of questions should you pursue? What layout of survey instrument will you use? How to select the sample and take into account no response problem. Administrative survey method, mail surveys, postal, email, personal interviews, including over phone, or now online with Zoom, Boom, physical observation or measurement, registration, respondents need to register the information at specified places. Transcription from records, data required are already available in registers maintained in one or more places. Archival research method, term archival means broadly the source used to generate research based on historical documents, texts, journal articles, corporate annual reports, firm disclosures, databases. An archival study will normally have more external validity because of its references to empirical data. But dangers will arise if your selection process, all right, is flawed, resulting in an unrepresentative sample size. So the process of data collection, the method of data collection was is important. These are published sources such as books, journal, newspapers, discussion papers, conference papers, websites. Primary sources include government, international statistical data, official documents, autobiography. Most importantly, the data you collect through interviews, questionnaires, surveys, and what kind of data are expected in your thesis. Secondary data should be used mainly in literature review, theoretical framework, and background chapters. Primary data should be employed in the main chapters, which you are working on in your research. Size of data collection. The extent of data collection depends on time and your willingness to work hard. It also depends on the willingness of respondents. If you are doing interviews, a questionnaire survey. It also will depend on the availability of data. It's also costly, so sometimes. So you need to also understand how you can handle that. So strategy for data collection, choose a topic for that data in a particular journal is available. Visit also other public libraries. Use specialized libraries and bookshops. Use international sources also. There are also, World Bank, all these other sources also are there. Even, statistical offices in the different countries in our, not just these international organizations, but also our own countries, like in India and in South Africa, others, we can also select. Strategy for data collection, start collecting data as soon as you decide your topic. Collect data whenever possible. Do not leave it to the last minute. More data on hand and finding it difficult to manage than less data and facing problems in completing your chapters. But you should know when to stop collecting data and start writing your chapters. So how to collect data, questionnaires, interviews. We'll explore this, I think, very much. So selection of research problem for analysis is a primary starter driver. Design and planning follows the selection of the problem. Literature review, choice of theories and conceptual frames, data collection and analysis, fieldwork, forward and backward linkages. Single pieces of research not expected to make original contributions from problem to conclusion. Some contribute to the development of new concepts, Some wish to contribute to the theorization, theory development. That's very, very good if you do that. Some are field and empirical oriented, producing new data. So some concentrate on sophisticated techniques for data analysis. Some may stress normative contributions. As long as there's original contribution, your work, your writing, your thesis, or your scientific paper will make it very well. So I think this is just some reflection I like you to do. We need also to decode the research journey to create high quality output from from perish to flourish. So we need to speak about scientific journals, some reasons to publish, scientific editor's role, criteria for paper acceptance, and writing a scientific paper, and why papers are rejected, peer review, and I think let me just say a little bit about that too. So the best writing always comes from rewriting, all right? I always ask a number of peer reviewers that includes both specialized and more general reviewers. We may want a journalist, a subject specialist, someone who's experienced in the methodology, someone whose work is being critiqued. If you are asked to review, then assume you have a valid and useful role to play. Like like a democracy, editorial peer review is messy and does not always work as it should, but it is essential to integrity of scientific and scholarly communication. We have journals. I'm involved in many journals, and I'm founding chief editor of the African Journal of Science, Technology, Innovation. Our biggest problem is the peer reviewers not doing it on time. Sometimes they take time, and they 1, 2, 3 months. Then when they always tell you they cannot do it, after they should have responded earlier, but they say something like that. So it delays the publication for some of the researchers, and we are more interested in assisting early young scholars, emerging scholars. So we publish almost over 70%, not these top scientists or already established ones. No, we want more the younger ones. That's why we have also some challenges, because if you have papers from highly recognized, then the score for your publication, everything also gets like. But we are more interested in supporting the younger generation and the younger scholars. So reviewers are complicated, and I think most of you must also be reviewers. You must be scientific reviewers, but you must also do it on time. And if you don't do that, you also affect the journal. You also affect the contributors that submitted the papers to be published. So give an overview of the review by giving feedback on paper structure, the quality of data sources, and methods I just described to you of investigation. Use specific issues on the methods and methodologies used. There's a difference. Logical flow of argument or lack thereof, and validity of conclusions drawn. Then comment on style, voice, and lexical concerns and choices, giving suggestion on how to improve. So the research value chain, selection of a research problem for analysis is a primary starter driver. Design and planning follows the selection of a problem. Literature review also, choice of theories and conceptual frames, data collection, analysis, fieldwork, and as I mentioned to you earlier, backward and forward linkages. So from start to finish, single piece of research not expected to make original contribution from problem to conclusion. Some contribute to the development of new concepts, some wish to contribute to the theorization, some are field and empirical oriented, producing new data. Some concentrate on sophisticated techniques for data analysis. Some may stress normative contribution. We need to work to discover and make original contribution. Originality is very, very important. So problems in peer review. A reviewer can be incompetent. A reviewer can be biased. A peer reviewer can require unnecessary references to his or her publications. They may even say like that. Comments from reviewer can sometimes include personal attacks. A reviewer delayed the review. He or she could publish an article on the same topic. A reviewer breached confidentiality. A reviewer used one's material without one's permission. This is some of the perceptions that have been done. Good researchers can be bad writers, and inspiring researchers can still be good writers, interpreters, and communicators. So do not think that all the writing can be done at the end. If you avoid writing, you will not develop the skills to write efficiently or even adequately for your thesis. Getting a conference paper and journal article accepted for publications are important parts of your development as a fully successful academic. So try to really evaluate them, or the degree of originality of your work is very, very important. So from start to finish, from start with research idea, so final output of writing, research papers and patents by undertaking literature review, conceptual theoretical framing, modeling derived from research problem, research design, data collection, data analysis, the empirical solution, theoretical interpretation, results, comparison with earlier research done, and conclusion. You need to keep it up by moving back and forth. And this is such an important thing. And that is, research is a creative process. Research includes far more than mere logic. It includes insight, genius, groping, pondering, sense, logic we can teach, the art we cannot. Research requires, at least works best with imagination, initiative, intuition, knowledge, and curiosity. So to publish original, high quality, and important findings in a specific scientific area with peer review, the case of our journal, the African Journal of Science Technology Innovation Development, the purpose of our seed is to publish important findings in science, technology, innovation, and development. Therefore, the contents of a manuscript should be within the scope and be relevant to the readership of the science, technology, innovation, development interdisciplinary field. So some reasons to publish: make contributions to society, be recognized professionally by peers, advance in the profession. That's what you need to do. Scientific editor's function: scientific editor decides the publication fate of submitted papers based on the evaluation of other scientists who judge the quality of submitted papers. This is a peer review process. Scientific editor is the guardian of scholarly record with the duty to ensure that published papers are scientifically of high quality and free from errors. Criteria for paper acceptance: originality, novel or creative research methodology, new and important research findings. And criteria for acceptance: scientific quality, appropriate experimental design and methodology, data presentation and interpretation, appropriate statistical analysis, depth of the investigation, substance of the results, thorough and logical discussion of results. Criteria for acceptance: clarity of presentation, organization of presentation, readability, clarity of writing, and grammar. Paper is much more likely to be rejected based on inadequate and analysis and lack of originality. Important to the scientific field and the readership is usefulness of findings to the science, technology, innovation interdisciplinary field that we publish.
Hello, Professor Mammo. Hello.